So here we are. Today is National Relaxation Day, and joining me, I am honoured to say, to celebrate is Keely Woolley. Now, before I say hi to Keely, let me just tell you a bit about her. She is an award-winning executive coach, trainer, mentor, speaker, and author. And she is on a mission to inspire individuals to rediscover their purpose, achieving personal and professional fulfillment without compromising health. That's the really key bit, thus creating a global ripple effect. Keely is somebody who prioritizes health and wellness in her own daily life and in her business endeavors. She is a proud mother, grandmother, and wife of 32 years residing in Kent, UK. Keely, absolutely fabulous to have you with me today.
And thank you for inviting me along, Yvonne. It's always a pleasure having a chat with you. As always, it's always a sense of fun and energy. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So here we are. It's National Relaxation Day. And this, for me, relaxation is such a key component to self-care, often missed out, quite frankly, by so many people. But why do you think relaxation is so important for daily living?
well, if I take a step back, I mean, the biggest reason for me, Yvonne, I mean, I was in the corporate world for over 23 years, and I fell into the traps that many executives and leaders fall into around burnout. And ultimately, it did lead to me both mentally and shutting down in 2020. And that's fundamentally why, for me now, it's so important to actually ensure that I introduce stress-free strategies and health and well-being within my own life, but also to be able to coach and train others to essentially avoid all of the pitfalls that I fell into. Because what we don't realize is the hidden effects that stress and burnout can have on us mentally and physically, causing things like brain fog, memory loss. It affects our focus, our clarity, our sleep, our gut health, our mind health, skin problems, weight problems. I mean, the list is endless. And if we don't practice self care, um, then ultimately it can lead to our demise. And, I mean, I was lucky that I managed to recover fairly quickly. But I mean, people that don't recover at all. And some people to the point where they either commit suicide or they die because their internal shutdown finished. So that's why it's so important for me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So true. And sometimes it's really hard to have that conversation and say those things, but actually it's the you need to understand how important this is, because I think sometimes self-care, or very often self-care, gets wrapped up in this nice to do luxury thing, do it if I've got time, do it later type of thing. And actually it's essential for us if we
Yeah.
want to thrive, if we want to flourish, if we want to go and do brilliant things in the world. Self-care is central to all of those things happening. That's
Yeah.
certainly my take, and I know that that's very much what your work is around. And I know that you're incredibly knowledgeable around stress management, not least from your own experience, but everything that you have done since, and also around nutrition. So
hmm
how do these topics relate to relaxation?
so if we start off with stress management, first of all, I mean, with the, you know, particularly when you're in that constant going at 1,000 miles an hour and don't get time to stop, that's when your stress levels start to increase, your anxiety levels start to increase, and then on top of that, it then has a knock-on effect on how in which we actually sleep at night. And then if we then go in our brains, because yeah, how often have you heard the statement, "Oh, my most creative time is when I'm actually at night time, and I get all of these ideas." No, guys, message here: it's not. It's because you've been going 1,000 miles during the day. When you go to bed at night, your brain isn't getting a chance to actually shut down. So that's when your brain is going at 1,000 miles at night time, and when you get up to try to actually, do this idea creation, so called, it takes you much longer to do it in those times than it would do if you was doing it during the day. So if you actually find times during the day just to stop,
Yes.
and I mean stop, and slow down and take time for yourself, you will find you'll have far more focus, far more clarity. You'll have time to actually clear your mind. So when you return back to whatever it is that you're doing, you're able to think better. So it means those ideas that you thought of at night, apparently, and taken ages to actually do something about, when you do them during the day, you're doing much quicker. So therefore, you're condensing the amount of activity that you're doing in a day because you've got more energy to be able to do it with.
Yeah.
So
All makes sense when you say it like that, doesn't it?
exactly. And then, you know, then if you, I mean, and there's so much more to it. I mean, I'm saying it in very simplistic terms. I mean, even just a simple thing. I did a post yesterday. It's like the best tool we have available to ourselves to help us to de-stress is breathing, and yet we
Yes.
don't do breathing properly, and we're not taught to breathe properly, and people go, it's just ridiculous, it's a normal function. Yes, it is, but most people, when they breathe in, they pull their belly in as opposed to balloon their belly out, so you're not getting enough oxygen into you. So when you do it properly and you stop, and then you then sort of breathe out slowly, and then you stop again, and you then repeat the exercise, you're getting nice clear flow of air running through you. So again, it helps to clear your mind. It gives you
Yes.
more clarity, and you're not, and it brings down your stress levels. It makes you feel calmer, and when you're coming from a calmer space, you come from a more controlled space of when you're actually making your decisions.
Yes.
So there's, that I mean, there's so many other ones. But then combining that with your nutrition, if we're not eating the right foods, if we're not putting the right things into our gut, then it will affect the way in which our gut functions. And if our gut isn't functioning, I mean, it's like your second brain. If your
Yes.
gut's not functioning, your brain's not functioning. If your brain's not functioning, your gut's not functioning. If your gut's not functioning, your skin and your hair and everything like that is not functioning. And that's where your immune system starts failing and shutting down. So just by changing the way in which we see food and drink and what we put in our bodies, and prioritizing what we put in our bodies, can also help us on so many levels.
Yeah, so true. In my background, many years ago, work it was very much around physical health. That was where I kind of started in the wellness space, and everything was about the physical. Everything was about the workouts. Everything was what you did, but didn't necessarily cover about the nutrition, what you put in, and
Mm.
understanding that what you put in is what's fueling you. So if you're putting a load
Mm.
of rubbish in, of course you either run out of steam, because that just depletes in a way, or the body is just unable to function in the way that it's designed to. And our bodies are
Mm.
pretty brilliant. Let's be honest, our bodies
Yeah.
are phenomenal. So if we treat them with that loving kindness and put the right nutrition in, then
Mm.
guess what? It's far more able to deal with stress, for one, isn't it? And then
Mm.
obviously, if we do all the other things that you're saying, and we tune into our breathing, and we slow down, and we have moments of stillness, all of that can make a massive difference to how life feels, how life
Mm.
is, and what we're
Mm.
capable of achieving in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
love all that, love all that. And the breathing, I think, is always really important to mention, Keely. I'm glad you mentioned it, because
Mm.
yes, we've been breathing since day dot, but that doesn't mean to say we've been breathing properly or well,
Mm. Yeah.
which is why we have breathing techniques, right, to teach us to breathe more effectively. Yeah,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was said that, I believe that when children are in schools, and I know, there is a responsibility of parents, but there's a lack of information with parents because they've been taught different things and wrong things, all those kind of things. If in schools we were taught some of these simple strategies, one of them, how to actually breathe properly, which means that it stopped them to have a lot of those sort of anxieties and their stress levels going up. But equally, something like emotional freedom technique, with tapping, If kids are taught that, it's a safe technique, it's easy to learn, it can't go wrong, in the sense it's not going to, like if someone does, say, some type of therapy or something like that, it can have a bit of an impact on how
Yes.
in which they're feeling. Whereas with this, it's not. It's rather like acupuncture, but without needles, effectively, because it's on your meridians.
Absolutely. Yes.
If children were taught to do that, it would teach them to manage things in a much better way, when they're starting to get frustrated or anxious. And then that would then carry into life. And then the same thing is the misinformation that they're given as children about, people say, oh, don't eat this, and don't eat that, and don't drink this. But they don't explain why. They don't explain how it's going to actually benefit them. I mean, if you're a person that's really sporty, or I mean, one of the, if even from the point of view, if you're functioning in terms of thinking all the time with work and you're studying, if you've got the right food and drink, it will help you to focus so much better when you're studying as well, as opposed to like, I do caffeine, have loads of Coca-Cola, have like sugary drinks, have this and all that. The highs and lows that people are constantly going on, which are not serving them any shape or form. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And there is, the educating, the actually, and absolutely, those are things that I believe should be happening at school level, that we, don't wait for them to have to leave school to go and find all this stuff out, when there are simple and effective things that they can actually take into schools. And I know there are some schools that are doing those things, and that's brilliant. But it actually, it should be part and parcel of the curriculum. Let's actually teach our young people how to look after themselves, because there's the other part of that, Keely, is if we teach young enough around self-care, then it doesn't become this thing we need to be having this deep conversation about now, because it will be part and parcel of what everybody does. They take care of self.
Yeah, it becomes the norm, doesn't it? And prioritizing. I mean, in fact, I'm doing some training tonight. And one of them is about the ability to say no. No is a sentence, and it's okay to say it, and you can say thank you afterwards, but you don't have to justify it, because when we don't put personal boundaries in place for ourselves, it means that we're not respecting ourselves, our own health, our own self-care, our own self-love, and our self-compassion. It doesn't mean you're being unkind. It doesn't mean that you're being nasty. It doesn't mean you're being selfish. But we're trained at such an early age, that by saying no, that we are doing all of the things that I've just mentioned. And then that then gets inbuilt into you, which then leads to things like people pleasing.
Yeah.
And people pleasing is the thing that ends up, becoming our demise, because, we feel that if we say no to someone, we'll be judged, be seen as weak, they're seen as lazy, not very nice, unkind.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. All really poor narratives that have been, as you said, sadly, kind of embedded into our way of thinking. That's the way that we live our lives, and those things absolutely need to change. There is this. If ever there was a time for those changes to be happening, it's now, so that future generations cannot get stuck in this messy space that we have. But what are some simple and effective ways of bringing relaxation into a daily routine? Especially, I mean, you work with entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and they'll all tell you the same thing: I'm too busy, I've got too much on. So when somebody is feeling time challenged, what are some of those simple and effective relaxation techniques and things that they can do?
It's the interesting thing is that you say, I haven't got time, I'm too busy. Now, many executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners I speak to, I say to them, right, okay, then I'm going to ask you a question. And I say, I want you to be really honest. How much time do you spend on your phone? Just as the first thing. How much time do you spend, when you first thing you do, when you get up in the morning or wake up in the morning, what do you do?
Yeah.
And by and large, they turn to their phone. And they turn to their phone, they'll read their WhatsApp, they'll read emails, they'll read social media, it's all and. So
Yeah.
immediately, just by that function, they're going to read stuff that's going to frustrate them, irritate them, or they're waiting for someone to respond, all of those things, or reading the news. I mean, I'm I know that there's a load of things that have gone over this weekend, and have been going on for a while, that are things that are going on that are really not pleasant at all. And I'm not ignoring it. I'm aware of it, but I don't watch it. And the reason being is it because it's not serving me by keep on watching this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Because what happens is that when you guys are doing that as a first thing, you're bringing yourself into a state of anxiety, and you are starting your day as you mean to end it.
Yeah.
And if you're starting your day in a state of anxiety, you will finish in a state of anxiety, which then means that you won't be able to sleep properly at night, which means that you have a poor night's sleep, which means that you wake up tired in the morning, and then so the cycle begins. But then it gets worse and worse and worse, which is why you end up less and less and less sleep, which then has a knock-on effect on, you know, what you eat. Because if you're sleeping later and later, you get hungry, your body doesn't know that it's been fed properly, it doesn't have a limit, and then you then turn to junk food, which is then going to make you sleep later at night. So the list could go on endless with that.
Yeah.
So with the phone, you know, so that's the first thing in the morning. So you've wasted probably half an hour maybe on your phone then. Then during the day, how much time do you spend on your phone scrolling, texting, listening to people, you know, replying to emails immediately? You know, people think that because an email comes in, you've got to respond immediately. You don't need to respond immediately. They never used to be able to do it.
Indeed.
So you don't need to do it now. You can set times of the day where you say, right, okay, then I'm going to make sure I'm allocating this time of day for perhaps doing my emails. I'm going to set this time of day maybe for responding on messages. You know, so you're doing it in chunks
Yes.
with that. But equally, plan your day in such a way where you're setting time, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes each hour or 5 minutes every couple of hours, whatever it is, just stepping away from technology, your computer, just go and sit and be
Yes.
present, not talking to other people, you know,
Yeah.
taking that time to have a breathe, just. And your productivity will increase tenfold. But at the same time, you are going to feel so much better. So, first tip, turn off your tech or turn off the sounds so you're not
Yes.
being disturbed by them. Okay?
Yeah.
So you can prioritize what is important in terms of your health and self care and self love. And then also, it means that when you actually prioritize those times out for yourself, that's going to also have a benefit of how you're actually feeling. And even if it's, and I know people might not actually agree with these because they say it's all a bit woo woo or woolly, it's actually doing a bit of grounding, you know, just going out, taking your shoes off, you know, going outside and connecting with nature, re-energizing yourself by connecting with nature and earthing. You're literally doing that. You're re-energizing yourself. So, you know, I've probably given lots of tips in there, but but
Yeah.
you know, for a busy person, think about what's important to you. So your health is your wealth. Without it, nothing will work at all. You can have all the money in the world, but it's going to be meaningless dead in a grave.
Absolutely. And there is that part, isn't there? Yes, of course you can go off and be successful without taking care of your health, but you won't be around to enjoy it. So what is the
Mm,
point of that?
mm.
Yeah, you're just taking those breaks, those small breaks. They don't have to be hour long, and just take those little breaks throughout the day to refuel and replenish yourself so that you can be more effective at the work that you're doing and show up being brilliant and getting stuff done. I mean, yeah. So I'm really interested, obviously, with the client base that you have. When you share these tips, Keely, what kind of response do you get? I'm interested. Do you get a lot of pushback? Are they really open? What's that thing that happens in that moment?
And often, especially when I do say to them, you know, how much time do you spend on your phone, or what's the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning, and you say these sort of things with them, and they're like, Yeah, I can relate to that. Or, or nighttime, binge watching TV, or the other thing is that how many people do you see that, sitting there with their families? And I know, watching a movie, you could argue that that in itself is not healthy. But how many do you see watching a movie and they're all sitting around the room on their phones at the same time? So your brain's hyper stimulated, and it's just like, can't we actually watch this together as opposed to, like that, so, but I quite often it is a wry grin because they go, yeah, okay, I relate to that. And then, quite often when you say to them about those 5 minutes of stepping away, taking that time just to breathe or connect with nature, they're like, actually, yeah, really simple techniques, and they don't take long.
Indeed. Indeed, indeed. Yeah, I like that. The wry smile. I can imagine that sense of, yeah, I know she's right, but I don't actually want to tell her that right now because it means I've got to
Yeah,
go off and do something, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, actually, one of the other things when you go back to nutrition. So, I mean, I'm an Arbon consultant, and as an Arbon consultant, obviously they've got a lot of products that are around self-care, both inside and out. Because one of my pillars is about re-injecting vitality and energy into your body, and that's about what we eat. And when I talk about eat, I talk about consume inside and out. Because at the end of the day, if you put skin products on you, wash your hair, all of those kind of things, it takes 60 seconds to go into your body. So immediately you're putting crap into your body, put it in layman terms, and also with your gut health, and there's things like doing 30 day for healthy living or protein, all those kind of things. And when people are trying to look at changing their health, and they go, oh, high investment, or when you talk about, doing these programs, and they go, high investment, I was going, right, okay then, okay, let's just take a step back then. So how much do you spend on takeaways per month? How much do you spend on junk food, each day? How much do you spend on alcohol? How much do you spend on, and then they go, once again, the wry grin, they go, yeah, okay, when you put it like that, because I mean, like, how many people do you see? And I mean, one, I can't stand the place, but Starbucks and Costa and all those kind of things, every single day, the same people going in, getting a cup of coffee, a pastry, or a sandwich. So they're spending about £8, £8.50, never mind their normal food per
Absolutely.
day, and they're prepared to pay for that, but they're not prepared to actually invest on products that are actually going to be beneficial. So again, I'll go back to health is wealth, and without it, you've got nothing.
Yeah, yeah. And I do sometimes wonder, is it because people think, oh well, all the things that I normally have, I still want to have, and then I want to have these products, but the products now that's an extra cost. It's like, no, it's to
Mm,
replace all the stuff that your body doesn't need and that your body doesn't want and that is not
yeah,
helping you. So that's getting
mm,
that clarity right. That it's to
yeah,
give you what your body truly needs, and
yeah,
that makes
yeah.
a massive difference to how you feel
Mm,
throughout your day and the work
mm,
that you get done. hundred
yeah.
percent. 100%.
And you don't need to go without, because I mean, one of the things I often do, I say, right, okay, then, what are your Achilles heels? What are the things that you really love? So
Yes.
what I do is then try to find them an alternative solution, so they're still going to get something they really enjoy, really tasty. I mean, I've been keto for probably about 7 or 8 years, and it's been the best thing I've ever done. Is it right for everybody? No. Does it work for me? Yes. I mean, I had chronic stomachache since I was about 15 years old, and when I changed the way in which I ate, suddenly overnight, stomachaches went, and I lost 3.5 stone, and I've
Yeah.
sustained that for that period of time. It's never changed, but my energy levels are through the roof in the afternoon. But what I do is I mean, I like a treat like the rest of us, but what I do is I instead of doing a cake that's full of sugar and flour and all those kind of things, I'll make, say, an almond cake with cocoa powder and protein powder and coconut oil and stuff like that. And it tastes amazing. I'll use maybe a little bit of erythritol, or I do energy balls, so I get little treats. I do stuff with almond butter and coconut butter and protein powder or rolled in coconut. And I mean, they taste lovely.
Yeah.
I don't go without. I never feel like I'm missing out on anything at all. So you can have good, wholesome, really tasty, flavoursome food without, you know, feeling like you're missing out. So
Indeed. There you go. So you can get some recipes from Keely straight away. That's a start.
yeah, lots. I love cooking. So recipes, cheesecakes. I even making. So if you wanted to make a sausage roll, you can use almond flour and cheese instead of flour and all those kind of things. And it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's crummy.
There you go. Talking food, mouth is now watering. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And another area, so another thing that I wanted to ask about. Now, you're a mum, you're a wife, you have a home to look after, you have a business to run, you do lots of different things, you have a diverse business. So, how much of your time or how do you create that space for relaxation? Because I think that's also another challenge for women in particular, is that juggling all these hats, very easy to put self at the bottom of the list and everything goes downhill from there. So how do you cope with all of those different hats that you wear and ensure that you make time for your self-care and relaxation?
So if I take during the week as an example, I mean, this is because as an entrepreneur, I'm able to do this.
Yes.
I would change when I was in my previous life. There were some strategies I used to implement in that lifestyle, but in this lifestyle, I do make sure that my calendar is booked out up until 10 o'clock every single day.
Yes.
So whatever thing I do up until that point in the day is based on what I prioritize, not somebody else books into my diary, because obviously I share my Calendly for various different reasons, different purposes. So timing, yeah. So I do make sure that, up until 10 o'clock is my time. So it means that I can ensure that I am allocating time for myself. By and large, and I say by and large because it depends on what's happened over the weekend. Because as I said to you, I've just been coaching for 4 days, so I'm quite tired. I was quite tired this morning, but by and large, I get up about 6 o'clock anyway, and I will do some exercise, whether it's yoga or weights or something like that, or going for a walk. I do that each day. I do, as much as possible, try to include in there a level of meditation as well, because even if it's just 10 minutes of meditation, that can also help with your focus. And I do ensure that I include gratitude. Now, the interesting thing is that, you can do things like gratitude and intentions whilst you're having a shower. You don't have to, because people say, I don't have time. Well, you can do that whilst you're in the shower. It doesn't take long to do. Priority, and people might think I'm completely bonkers and thankfully they can't see in my garden, is that the first thing I do is I have my shower, come downstairs, I'll switch the kettle on, and then I'll go and stand outside for about 30 seconds so I get some daylight. And here's the thing, if you do that, that helps with your circadian rhythm. So it means that it helps for when you're also going to sleep at night. So starting the day as you mean to go on helps how you finish the day. So 30 seconds. It's not long. Takes 30 seconds, literally. So and also with my diary, I do try to book out as much as possible during the day, that blocking out time during the day. So, over a lunchtime, all those moments as much as possible to be able to, just even if it's walking away just for that 5 minutes. So I try to do that as much as possible. And over the weekends is obviously I spend on the Saturday, because I might point out is that she says Keely's got children. My children are 30 and 32 years old now. So they're not at home anymore. So that's one of the things I've helped myself with, is that they're not living here anymore. But, the weekend, again, is that making sure that allocating some time to go out and have a nice walk, with the dogs and my husband, and just taking some time out from that side of it. But the other thing is just making sure that you're putting boundaries in place. So on Wednesday, for instance, I do executive networking on Wednesday night. That's at 9 o'clock till 10:30. Now, it's necessary for me to do that, so I'll make sure that I block out a big chunk during the day, so that's me time then. So
Nice.
it's about managing your time in a much, much healthier way, rather than thinking, "Oh, I've got to work all the way through and then do the 9 till 10:30," and by then you're absolutely shattered. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think, that whole point of, because one of the things that I always say to my clients is, don't leave your self-care to chance. Like, if I suddenly have this gap in the day, I'm going to do something. Book it in like it's an appointment. You book to go to the doctors, you book to go to the dentist. Book that time for your self-care, whether it is 5 minutes or it is 30 minutes or it's an hour. Book it in. Then it's there. And then respect it, because it's for your benefit.
Yeah.
So, such a simple and effective thing to do. And like you said, it means that if you end up having to do something late in the evening, you've already ensured that you've got something that time during the day to balance that out. That out. So important. So important.
100%. And also, it's working out what's right for you, because I don't care what anybody says. You say all these people, they go, oh, they get up and they do 4:30 in the morning and they do a cold ice bath, or they do their meditation for this long, and they do the journal, and they do this, blah, 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 blah. They've done 1,000 things before it's even 7 o'clock. But not everybody wants to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. They're not designed to. So if you are an individual that actually you function better later in the day, then that's okay. Sleep, in till sort of, I don't know, whether it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. If you want to do that, then that's okay. You've got to try to find what's right for you.
Yes.
To work in the correct way, because we are all different, the way in which we're made up. But what I would say is also ensure that you're consistent about what time you go to bed and what time you get up every single day, because otherwise it does affect your whole sleeping pattern, the way in which you're feeling. And we're fairly, as human beings, we're very consistent. The biggest area where it's a big challenge, particularly for sleep, is where people on shift work. I mean, that is a killer. And it is literally a killer, because it's just not healthy to live that lifestyle, especially working nights as well. So
that just throws everything out, doesn't it? And with that said, you have to cut yourself some slack if that's the position that you're in, but still be looking for those healthier ways of living your life the best way that you can, and seeking support and advice if you're struggling, which is also super important. And it could be things, Keely, as simple as you said before, looking at your nutrition more than anything, because if you do shift works and you're working at night, that's what you do. But you can really kind of support yourself in other ways, like through your nutrition and the things that you do in your daylight time, if you like, what you can and cannot do. Okay, so I guess what would be your, and I'm just going to ask for one, what would be your absolute top tips? So if somebody's listening to this and they're just saying, I get it, I hear it, it makes complete sense to me, but as I look at my schedule, it still freaks me out, as I don't even know where I would go with putting in this time. What would be your number one tip in terms of either, if you do nothing else, do this, or if you're struggling with your diary, do this? What would you say?
There's so many that comes to mind, but you know what? Actually, and I've not mentioned it at all, I would say one of the biggest things I would say, particularly with people that tend to be like ones that are really quite ambitious and always on the go and all those kind of things, is learn to be vulnerable. And what I mean by that is it's okay to ask for other help from other people, because quite often when you're that nature of a person that sort of, you're volunteer for everything, you're the go-to person that everybody will go to, you raise your hand for everything. Yes. And the problem with that is that when you're like that, you also won't ask for help, because you, again, don't want to be seen as weak, don't want to be seen as judged, and there's the shame around it and all those kind of things. But when you learn to be vulnerable, and say, I need your help. And by the way, here's another thing. Don't assume that other people know that you need help, because unless you ask for it, they're not going to give it to you. And that includes your family. So don't complain that they haven't done something. They
Yeah.
do need you to ask them and be specific about it. But the same follows in a work environment. If you've got a team of people, whether it's your peers or whether it's people that work for you, if you ask for support and say, I can't do this on my own, not only will they respect you for it, they'll value you for it, because it means that they can do the same with you as well. And that will free up more time for you.
Yes. 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 Such an important part, such an important point. Because there is still this great fear around asking for help, and it's the wrong thing, and it makes me weak, and I should be able to do everything. Says who? Where is this written? Please, somebody tell me. Another pattern of stories and narratives that we've heard that we have engaged in and taken on board to be factual, and in fact they're not. That's the bottom line. They're not. So I love that. That's a brilliant one to kind of finish on, because we hadn't touched on that, Keely. So if anyone is listening, and I'm sure there are those who are, how might they get in touch with you if they want to know more about the work that you do and how you might be able to support and help them?
Okay, well, I mean, one of the easiest places is that I'm on, social media, I think, on all platforms. But you'll either look up sort of Keely Woolley, which is on Facebook and LinkedIn. And my actual business name is Meta More, with no E, for Success, as you can see on here. And if you was to type that in, you'd get every single platform that you can possibly think of. So, but yeah, and I mean, I don't know whether it's possible, but I can share a link as well following this, which will give a link to free asset as well. Maybe a free asset where they can actually see where they're at when it comes to people pleasing and setting personal boundaries. So a bit of a survey.
Well, we'll make sure that we add that link in and make sure that it is available for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Keely, thank you so much for joining me today. For those watching, listen, National Relaxation Day. This is just one day, and this is one day that we're bringing these messages to you. But every day is a day to take the opportunity to do something kind and good for yourself that will help you to do all the other brilliant things that you want to do in this world. So I'm telling you now, I know that if you want to be successful in any area of your life, you must learn to put your health on your agenda, and taking time to relax is just one of the many ways you can ensure that you do that. Keely, again, thank you so much.
And thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And as you just succinctly put, is self-care and self-love is not an act of selfishness. It's a gift we give ourselves to nurture our souls.
And there you have it. Those final words. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Keely.
Cheers. Take care.